Good afternoon, everybody. We'll call to order the Salina City Commission special meeting for July 30th, 2025. And that leads us to, well, I need staff confirmation from that the Kansas Open Meeting Act required notice has been properly provided.
Yes.
Thank you. And on to roll call.
Mayor Linkwitz.
Here.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Hoppick.
Here.
Commissioner Ivy.
Here.
Commissioner Longbine.
Here.
Okay, those that are able, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. And that takes us to administration, 3.1.
It should just be to move into an executive session, I believe, unless I am misremembering what order I typed those in.
Yeah, that's what we're in.
All right, Mayor Linkwitz, I move the City Commission recess in executive session 4. We should have talked about this first.
Well, now's the time. How many minutes do you think we need?
I was going to start in an hour. Maybe
60 minutes seems reasonable.
We can come back. Okay. So, executive session for 60 minutes to discuss with its consultant, Chris Lowe of Government Professional Solutions, the subjects of the confidential identity and qualifications of specific applicants for the position of city manager and preliminary interviews of those applicants conducted by its consultant based upon the need to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting will resume in this room at 5:05 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session for 60 minutes pertaining to the city manager hiring process, and we'll be consulting with Chris Lowe of Government Professional Services. And it's pursuant to KSA 75-4319B, subsection 1. Meeting will resume at 5:04 p.m. or 5:05 p.m. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. And any additional information or direction from you, Mr. Bankston?
No, you're in a position to convene that executive session.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. right, we're back, and Ms. Fisher, we're going to have you go through the process, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Briefly, to recap, based on the discussion from Monday night City Commission meeting, we will be hosting a public meet and greet for the finalists once those are confirmed, with activity from the commissioner or the consultant. There we go. But so Monday night will be the meet and greet. Once we get all of the details confirmed and final arrangements, we will do press release on that, and then interview process, confidential executive session meeting for Tuesday the 12th. I'm echoing. We will have that information confirmed as well. In preparation of making these arrangements and starting the schedules, I do feel obligated to disclose some concerns that were expressed related to the staff leadership department head level activity that was proposed Monday during the discussion. Some of the concerns were just the perception that staff was involved in a commission decision, and as I believe one of our leadership team member put it, concern that we would have a thumb on the scale. There was also a concern really that the activity could put staff in an awkward spot, and then the complexity of a potential internal candidate that had already been expressed. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Obviously, it is a commission decision if you wanted to proceed with that. One option that some of the leadership team said they would be happy to do is provide a question or two that the commission might want to run by candidates during the interviews that are not part of interaction with staff, and staff is encouraged to meet and to mingle and attend the meet and greet event. But I guess I'd answer any questions as best I could, but wanted to make sure you were aware of those concerns.
Well, we certainly want to do what we can to mitigate those concerns, so it'll be a discussion worth having.
Well, I think it's a good idea perhaps for them to submit questions to us. I could see with the potential for an internal candidate being judged by his or her peers or subordinates would be kind of awkward. It's a good point. I hadn't thought about it.
Well, and I had had the question earlier when we were talking, but I remember when we hired Mike Scragg, we intentionally did not have staff involved. And so I was struggling a little bit with how that was even going to come down. So
Well, if I could interject, I've seen it done both ways. This isn't the first time an internal candidate has participated in an event like that. However, if you have folks that are unwilling or uncomfortable sitting on that, you don't have to do that exercise. In fact, you could just have a written exercise where you give them the proposed issue that you'd like them to analyze, and they can give you a written product and they don't have to present it at all. Or you could have them present it to you briefly as part of your hour-and-a-half interview with them, and that takes staff out of the loop, if that's a concern. But I have had plenty of leadership teams that would have an incumbent or an interim that participates in that. That's not unusual, but if it is something that you think is uncomfortable for your staff, you don't have to do it. It's just another way to assess the person's abilities, and if you'd rather keep that within the discretion or purview of the commission, you certainly can do that. But I would still recommend that you have some exercise where you get the candidate's ability to research, analyze, and interpret, and then write some sort of written work product for you to examine.
that's a completely different scenario than having staff meet directly with them like had been discussed. So, yeah.
And the staff, department heads would probably have their finger on the issues that are most important to them as far as getting
I still think,
approaches.
Yeah, but I still think we can come up, and that's, with question or two to, can submit to Chris and he can put it in some kind of form. I say we submit questions to Chris if we have, or a topic that can be put.
I think we'd get more operational concerns
I guess if
raised from department heads. I mean, and throw them in with our questions, because there's some aspects of running the city that we fortunately don't have to get involved with, but would be very important as far as getting staff buy-in and having successful performance with a new
The staff's,
city
any
manager.
comments from the staff would be not confident. Well, yeah, confidential.
Yep.
Like they would know it was coming from anyone specifically.
Correct. That's why I usually filter them and don't put identities of anybody. I just summarize the commentary and you get in a sense of what the folks have. But like I said, if you're uncomfortable with including staff because of the internal candidate, then don't have them sit as the mock commission. Just have the exercise done by the candidate, and we'll include the written product and the materials that you analyze when you're doing their final interview on the 12th. I mean, we don't have to overcomplicate it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it.
Sounds reasonable to me. Do we have a consensus on that?
Yep.
All right. Mr. Bankston, do you have anything to add?
Only to suggest possibly that we take it from the top day by day so that everyone's expectation is known, and to be sure that you all are on the same page and don't have any surprises in terms of the plan.
Understood.
The procedural plan.
Okay.
Oh, I think that's...
And I'll be happy to send you a memo that summarizes the procedure consistent with what you're saying here. So if we're not going to use a leadership team analysis piece, we'll just have a written exercise for the candidate to do in advance, and I'll submit those with the materials, and then we'll have one less item for them to do on the 11th, and then those materials. But I will send out a memo that summarizes the schedule, process, and whatever the exercise was once I receive commentary that tells me what the exercise needs to cover, what topic we're wanting to have the person analyze. So
my suggestion was, can we not go through that basically right now?
Yeah, that was mine.
Well, certainly. Okay, here's the deal. On the 11th, they're going to get a community tour. We do still need to figure out who's going to lead that. I don't care who you use. If you don't want to use staff, use the chamber director, use the mayor's wife. I don't care. But we need somebody that will show them city facilities and community facilities. Once they do that, I'll get their written documents put together. You'll have a final candidate report. So on the 11th, they'll come in, do their community tour, the meet and greet. On the 12th, they will interview. The interview will include your final candidate reports, and that will also include the written work product that they submit on the topic. So all I really need is the topic. On the 11th, you'll have a community tour and a meet and greet. On the 12th, you'll do the interviews. The interviews will include the work product from the written exercise.
If I may, I'm looking at Natalie. I assume the tours will be your responsibility in terms of identifying and
Yes, I can arrange those.
And I say that only because I assume direction from the commissioners as to who they might or what categories of persons they might wish to have lead those tours would be helpful for you?
I would think the chamber has enough resources and probably does it for other large companies, and I wouldn't try to reinvent the wheel. I mean, if they're used to doing it, just ask for their assistance.
Well, and I think the chamber has, the expertise in certain areas, but I think city staff should be involved with
What you doing? City tour?
the city departments.
A tour of Salina or a tour of city
Facilities.
facility. Right, the city would have to do its facilities, but
Yeah.
if you're talking about just a tour of Salina,
I'm going to look to Natalie. I think there's, plenty of, whether it's the chamber, the EDO. We know some of the leadership, whether it's the Greater Salina Community Foundation. I mean, we know individuals that are familiar with the community. It might be helpful if we submitted, or somebody put the list of what we wanted them to see, so everybody saw the same things. Some of them dealing with city facilities, some of them dealing with some of the, whether it's K-State Salina, whether it's the new economic development, the Schwans and stuff. I think it'd be beneficial if everybody kind of had the same things to, a guide of here's what we want you to show them and discuss. The more we can be consistent, I think the better off we'd be.
And I think with
And
city facilities, like the chamber is not going to want to go to the water and sewage treatment plant. And that's one of the most vital, important
you
part
could
of the
split
city.
it up in two and have a city facility tour and then a community tour. So you'd have a city staff member that takes them to the same designated places, police station, city hall, et cetera, and then that could be for an hour, and then they could take 30, 45 minutes or whatever with for the community tour to show them Tony's Pizza and the downtown and things that you'd also like to highlight for the candidates. So that might be a way to get both of those things done. And since you're not doing an exercise, you've got the time to do it.
Seems reasonable to me, but to be honest, Commissioner Davis and Vice Mayor Hoppick, you gentlemen have been through this process before, so my inclination is to defer to your past experience on this.
well, when the hospital brings physicians in, sometimes they'll get real estate agents, but the chambers has assisted. Visit Salina, EDO. I mean, they're all frequently in need of showing people what Salina has to offer. And I'm sure they would jump at the opportunity to help out. I mean, I would like to believe we'd have enough confidence in our Chamber of Commerce to include this as one of their core, what's the word I want to use, offerings to help us out.
Mayor, if I may, I keep coming up with questions for Natalie, if that's all right.
Certainly, yeah.
Natalie, is it your sense that some of the apprehension on staff's part in relation to the exercise is not necessarily manifested in the prospect of assisting with the tours, that there it's obviously an informational type situation? I think it was more the aspect of appearing to possibly affect outcomes was the staff apprehension.
Yes.
So I don't know that you all should think that the staff would not want to potentially be of assistance if that's your wish.
Well, and again, I'm trying not to micromanage this process, but I mean, in the way I view it is, whether it's somebody with the chamber, somebody's familiar with the community does it. If we're gonna give a tour of TPEC, I would not be the great person to do that. Hopefully, we can have somebody at TPEC available that day to give tours to however many candidates are here. if we go to the police station, there's somebody from the police station that will give 4 or 5 tours to whatever it is. If there's somebody, if for some reason we want to see one of the fire departments, the water department, they have somebody there to do the tour. I don't think that's setting any precedents as if they're trying to. And that's the people that should be giving the tours. If it's a new water facility, there should be somebody out there familiar with it to to talk about that facility. Does that make sense?
That's how I envisioned it.
And so
That does.
I don't think a chamber person walks through the police department. I think of somebody, if that's where they want to go, if that's one of the facilities we're going to look, I'm just throwing that out there.
But the chamber facilitates the tour and drives them
Yes,
around town,
yes.
stops at the different
Yes,
places, and then gets
exactly.
And I
a tour
think they
from the staff
probably
member.
are very accustomed and they got a set
Yeah,
route.
we'll figure it.
Yeah, I think, to your point, I do think certainly with Mr. Lowe's assistance and Ms. Fisher's assistance, this is the time you should feel free to micromanage, because it is so important that it comes off exactly how the 5 of you wish. So I appreciate the time and detail that
And we
we're
do
giving
have
guidance to Natalie and
we have
Mr. Lowe.
assistant city manager here who could certainly facilitate, once you get a list of facilities we want to visit, talk to those folks who run those facilities, say, hey, Monday from 9 to 10, I need you available at the front door. We do have a lot of facilities, because our tour as commissioners can take 2 to 3 hours. We don't want to kill them with stuff, but
Yeah.
the highlights. And facility tour would probably be different from the sightseeing, show off tour.
I'll take them to landfill.
There may be somebody who's got a thing for landfills.
Interesting.
Or they may be surprised
Yeah.
that we have our own landfill. They may want to see
You
it.
laugh. That's probably fairly important. I mean, yeah,
Right.
you think you laugh, but it's a pretty big budget item.
Right.
Well, what I think you're on the right track. What I would suggest is if you don't want to have high level staff involved, have your assistant public works director or a public works superintendent. Those people usually have access to most of the facilities. Give them a list of what facilities you want them to visit. They'll drive the candidate around. We put a heads up to each facility that they need to have somebody available to show them around that particular facility. So they show up at City Hall, they meet their driver. The driver takes them to the designated areas at the designated times. Those times will be for them to tour those facilities. At the conclusion of that, they come back, they can take 30 minutes or whatever, and then they'll have a scheduled tour with the chamber to kind of look at community events, schools, facilities that aren't affiliated with the city, and then you've covered both of those bases.
Yeah,
So that they get a full view of it, and that's a good way for them to lead into that meet and greet, because they will have just seen pretty much everything that involves the city or the community at that point. That would be my suggestion.
just to clear up any possible misconception, and I'm speaking on behalf of our senior staff, I don't think they would have any hesitancy in doing that. Their hesitancy was in participating in something that basically was judging the candidates, which then would obviously have an influence on our action, particularly with the potential for an internal candidate being involved. But I don't think there'd be any. In fact, I'm sure they would love to take part in the, showing off what we have, part of the tour.
Mr. Lowe, or one thing you mentioned, maybe I'm the only one that's a little confused on the Monday, Tuesday sequence. The tours are occurring on Monday or Tuesday? Strictly the interviews on Tuesday?
Correct.
Okay.
The tours and the meet and greet are Monday. The interviews are Tuesday.
Okay. Very good. I was the only one confused, apparently.
So I guess the only question that remains for me in terms of trying to finalize a schedule or any of the arrangements, I've seen both approaches in terms of lunch on Tuesday. Is it the commission's wish to do a private lunch commission only to allow for discussion time, or did you anticipate that all candidates would be having lunch with you on the interview day?
Mine would not to have all candidates there present at the same time.
Okay.
I'm going to look to legal
My
coun-
recommendation would be that you do not do that.
Yeah,
That you,
thank you.
And depending on the number of candidates that end up progressing through the process, you might get all the interviews done in the morning. If not, you'll have one that hangs into the afternoon, one or maybe two, depending. But I think that I would give yourselves just a brief break from the interview process. Get a little break at lunch. Don't talk about it and kind of let
that's-
your mind clear. Then you finish with the interviews. Then you debrief together in exec and try and analyze the candidates that you might want to hone in on.
That
would be my suggestion.
I'm looking to legal counsel. Let's say we have interviews in the morning. We still have some come in, say have some in the afternoon. Having lunch as a commission with all 5 of us, do we have an issue doing that, or should we take a 60-minute, 45-minute break and go our own ways?
I'm good with going solo to lunch.
You know, we've done it before on different sessions.
Yeah, it's back to that old appearance versus whether you can talk whatever that isn't city business for that period of time.
I would, because we're going to, I guess this is considered to be an executive session when we're meeting with the candidates.
Correct.
So to me, we would go into executive session, do whatever, come back out, and whether it's recess for 60 minutes, and then come back. And I think that would be best in my mind.
And that's certainly the safest
Okay.
course, yes.
I have a very strong opinion about that. I think just even the appearance of impropriety or
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to
for
go
reason,
back into
it's-
executive session when we're done, but I just
Right.
think that lunch we should
And
break.
for some
No,
of
I-
us, it may not be lunch, it may be work for
For
45 minutes, plus 7 minutes transportation time in each direction.
Yeah,
catching up on phone
Yeah.
calls, et cetera.
That is certainly the safer course.
yeah, okay.
I think we're in agreement then. Anything else?
Yeah. We would not then, from the way Commissioner Hoppick just phrased that, we would not have to convene a separate meeting Tuesday after completion of the interviews, as it would still be that one long executive session.
Well, you actually stay in your meeting, recess into executive session for the morning session. You can come back out, and you're still in that original meeting, and then you can again recess into a subsequent
Okay.
executive session. With
So we'd actually open the meeting at 8:30, whatever time in the morning the
Whatever we
interviews start.
start.
there was a Kansas public entity that tried to keep an executive session in session for a week in order to conduct a series of interviews, and the Attorney General didn't see the humor in that. But, so as long as we can keep it within the day,
One calendar day.
I think we're good.
Okay.
I guess something we have not discussed is, I'm guessing that we are paying travel expenses for these candidates. Do we have an earmarked budget for that?
Well, this ain't the time to get cheap.
Fair point.
In
And
terms,
no one's really coming from all that great distance anyway, I don't
Yeah,
think.
it's just the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
I will say until we're further along
Yeah.
and have finalists confirmed and announced,
I would agree.
I can't really estimate any expenses.
Yeah.
I do know I've taken advantage of a discount we are allotted at a hotel to secure rooms with just the city's name on them for both Sunday and Monday night, just so that's squared away.
Okay.
Natalie, can you send me that information so I can, when I contact the candidates, to get the finalists, to let them know that they've got a place reserved for them and where it is?
Absolutely. Yep.
So yeah, I think you're I honestly, I don't think I mean, I've looked at your budget. I think you can find enough to bring in a few candidates for this. I mean, the travel's the big part. It's not like the hotel and meals are going to kill you. It's just maybe there will be a flight or two by a candidate, but I wouldn't anticipate that that's going to break any budget line item that you have in the general fund. And I think it's even small cities pay that cost and are able to take it out of some sort of discretionary fund in the general fund that's set aside for that.
Okay. Sounds like the rest can be discussed at a later date. And we don't need any action on this, I presume.
No, I think it's just the plan that needed to be laid out, and appreciate you doing that.
Okay. Well, I believe we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.